Okay, you have the post NFL draft power rankings. So this is my first one since the Super Bowl, so let's get to it. Number 10, I have the New York Jets. They added Aaron Rodgers to an already really talented team, and that's probably their biggest propelled them up into the top 10. Um, some people might have it higher, but I still think their offensive line has to come back healthy and have to do well because last year their offensive line got injured and was not good. Brees Hall has to come back healthy or still have no run game. It's just a lot of people coming back from injuries. Their defense is still really good, and Aaron Rodgers has to rebound. A lot of rebounding pieces on their offense, so I think they'll struggle at first. People recovering from their injuries, so which is why I have them a little bit lower at number 10. Number 9, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Really didn't do much this free agency or the draft. And a few depth players, but not a lot of like stars, instant impact players, which is why they're pretty much in the same spot, just one lower. For another team that really improved, really didn't do much. Just kept their pieces, which is good. They already had a good team beforehand, but didn't improve so much. Which is why I have them at 9. At number 8, I have the Detroit Lions. I think they um improved their defense big time with that corner they signed from the Steelers. They got Brian Branch, and they continue to um, in offense continues to get better with Gibbs now. Gibbs is going to make an impact, even though I don't think he should have went 12 at number 12. Gibbs will make an impact. Um, they obviously traded away Swift, but the offensive line was good last year. Should continue being good this year. Jared Goff showed that he's serviceable. Their wide receiving depth is a bit lacking, especially with Williams now suspended, but they still have Amon Ra, but wide receiving core could add a little bit of depth. Tight ends, they drafted a tight end, which fills in another weakness of theirs. So as long as all their new pieces play up to their standards, their rookies do well, um, I think the Lions will be good. And their roster-wise, their roster is already talented, especially on offense. Number 7, I have the Miami Dolphins up 3 spots. Biggest addition had to be Vic Fangio, by far replacing Josh Boyer, who was not good last year. Vic Fangio, proven defensive coordinator. Dolphins' weakness last year is definitely their secondary, more so than their offensive line. And I think with Jalen Ramsey, um, and their Cam Smith, and the overall defense just getting more healthy, David Long, it should get better, especially with Vic Fangio. Their offensive line could be better. They didn't really add any starters per se. So hopefully Teron Armstead stays healthy because their line was, I think, only like about average when Armstead was in. So as long as Armstead stays healthy, I think, and they drafted the running back. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. So Dolphins team is looking really good. Outside of maybe offensive line and tight end, depends on how much you value tight ends, but the rest of the positions have good depth and good starters as well. Number 6, I have the San Francisco 49ers down 2 spots. Um, not I know the team wise they're talented, but they're missing the biggest position, quarterback. Brock Purdy, I'm not sure. He's definitely not going to start the season healthy. Trey Lance is unproven at best, and Sam Darnold is not a starter. Quarterback is going to be an issue, big time issue. I'm also worried about their offensive line. They lost their right tackle, and the rest of the line just does not look that good outside of Trent Williams. The rest of the line is kind of like people you don't recognize pretty much. But their defense, they didn't really lose anybody on defense, which is great. They should have like a top 3 defense again next season. And the talent is definitely there. I'm worried about quarterback and their offensive line. Number 5, I have the Dallas Cowboys up a spot. They brought in Brandon Cooks. They drafted another linebacker, I believe. Defense, like I said, didn't lose a lot of pieces. Still have Trevon Diggs. Still have just a good overall defense. Um, Didn't lose a lot of pieces. Offensive line could be a little bit of a worry, but some of their second year players who played well last year should fill in for the guard that they missed. So Cowboys pretty much in the same spot they're usually at. Talented team, but will that equal to playoff um, success? Number 4, I have the Buffalo Bills up a spot. They brought in that Dallas guard, which definitely should um, their offensive line should be better. I'm still slightly worried about their offensive line. Obviously, if Josh um, Allen. Another thing, their wide receivers aren't that good. They have Stephon Diggs and then everybody else. They did draft a rookie, Similar, another deep threat rookie, but we all know their offense is mainly just Josh Allen, and hopefully James Cook gets better, and they have Damian Harris as well. So they did improve, but not like a major improvement. Their defense pretty much stayed the same. They brought back Poyer, which I think was huge. As long as their defense still stays healthy, I think they'll be good. Number three, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Similarly, these top teams, they don't do much. Bengals, I wish they did more with their offensive line, but they did keep everybody at their position like most top teams do. And then number two, I have the Philadelphia Eagles that actually added. They got Jalen Carter, a huge guy for the defensive line after losing. Uh, what was that? They lost one of the defense and they immediately replaced it with Jalen Carter. I think their secondary without Chancey Gardner might be a problem, especially if there's drop off from Slay. He's starting to get old. And Bradbury, I think Philadelphia Eagles right now, their offense is obviously great. Their offense, the wide receivers, offensive line, their run game could be a worry, especially if Penny gets injured. But I'm not worried about the offense. Their secondary is a bit more worrying for me. Obviously, Bradbury and Slay are getting on the old side, and Garner is out with somebody else. So, but they're still number two team. And then you have the teams that dropped down, Minnesota and the Giants. Minnesota, I wish they did more on defense. Their defense. I wish they did more on it. Offense is fine though, especially with the addition of Addison. Giants, similarly, I wish they did more on offense. Adding, they did get Hyatt, which is a good like deep threat, but not well rounded enough. And it'll take time for him to develop. Darren Waller is good, but he's been injured. And biggest problem to me about the Giants, Saquon won't sign this tag, and the Giants don't look like they're willing to give Saquon a big contract. And Saquon is their offense. Number one, you obviously have the Kansas City Chiefs. Did lose a couple of wide receivers, but everything else looks good. Defense, they added defense to the draft, and they're Super Bowl champion. They'll always be good regardless of their wide receivers because they have Kelsey Mahomes and Andy Reid. Their defense should improve with their draft picks, even though I don't see like instant starters. They should provide good depth in case of injury. So they're the number one team. So there you have my NFL post-draft power rankings.